half planning and it's half damage control. And I teach that as the skill of reassessment, right? Like that's really what it is. It's like when life happens, which happens a lot. What are you going to do? Right? You can't undo a lot of things. So it's a matter of just accepting what it is and then saying, all right, well, hey, that's interesting. So this is what I thought was going to happen, but this is now what has happened. So it's like, how can I reconcile these two things? So that's really what it boils down to. I feel like even when you have smaller families, right? You're doing the same thing.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of She's Got It Together. I'm your host, Jessica.
And I'm Samantha. Each week, we peel back the curtain on what it really looks like to have it together.
From the messy moments to the milestones, we're here to share it all.
So grab your favorite drink, get comfy, and let's dive into today's topic.
Hey, Jessica here from She's Got It Together, and I'm here with my lovely co-host, Samantha. And today we are going to be talking with Jennifer Roskamp. Hi, Jennifer.
Hey, ladies. Thanks for having me here today. I'm excited to talk with you.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. So today's topic is going to be managing a household, but Jennifer has a bit of a twist on that just because she has more children than the average family. So Jennifer, do you want to just kind of dive in and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So I'm a homeschooling mom of 9, Gigi of 2, which means grandma in my world. But because my youngest was only 3.5 when my first grandson was born, I thought I need to be Gigi. Like I need to pick a name. Like it can't be grandma, right? Like this is so confusing for my youngest son at the time, who must have been 6 or 7. He's like, so do we have another brother-in-law now? And it was like, no. Like it's your nephew, just really confusing. So yeah, there's a big gap obviously between my oldest and my youngest. So at the time of this recording, my oldest just turned 23. She's the one with 2 kids. And then my youngest is 5. So and my first 3 are really close in age, and then they kind of space out to where they're about 2 years apart, most of them. And then we homeschool as well. So we're together a lot, but my kids do a lot of stuff as well. So life is never boring. That's always what I say, right? And it's controlled chaos. I always say those are my 2 things. Like it's always an element of chaos. It's a matter of you just have to control it and then do with it what you can, right? Just take what you can and let go of the rest, I guess.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. I mean, Samantha and I, because we're sisters, we have about 8.5, almost 9 years between us. But still, our mom only had 3, and it was because there was twins.
Okay.
Because Sam's a twin.
I'm a twin.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. So gosh.
I know that you guys were sisters.
We are.
That's fun. Fun fact.
Yes, fun fact. So, okay. Well, I mean, you've got it all figured out then if you can handle a household with that many.
Damage control, right?
Yes. Oh, I love that. Yes, that's perfect. Yes. Damage control. Yes, that's perfect.
I mean, that's really what it is. I feel like it's half planning and it's half damage control. And really, I teach that as the skill of reassessment, right? Like that's really what it is. It's like when life happens, which happens a lot. What are you going to do, right? You can't undo a lot of things. So it's a matter of just accepting what it is and then saying, all right, well, hey, that's interesting. So this is what I thought was going to happen, but this is now what has happened. So it's like, how can I reconcile these two things? So that's really what it boils down to. I feel like even when you have smaller families, right? You're doing the same thing.
No, that's very true. I mean, that's essentially how you make it through the day, is just by, pivoting when you need to pivot and,
just being flexible.
Going with it. Yeah, definitely going with it.
I know you can always have a plan, but it's never going to go according to plan. So you have to be flexible, because I have an 18-month-old. I'm pregnant with my second right now. So I'm just kind of like, okay, like we've got life figured out for the most part with the one. Now we're going to, and he's, 18 months. So they'll be like 22 months apart. So then we're going to add another one to the chaos. And I'm like, you know what? 2, 4, 6, like, doesn't matter. How many we have, it's just going to be chaos, controlled chaos, no matter how many you have.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that's kind of when we got to 4. I will say, people think I'm crazy, but I think there was some adjustment with going from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and 3 to 4. But literally after that, there was just no adjustment anymore. And I know that sounds crazy, but it really was just like, well, all the wheels are essentially, like you are heavily outnumbered. And so
yes,
you know,
you are.
Just the way it is. And then, it's the fluidity of life, right? You got to be fluid, because again, you can fight against it, but why do that? Like, all you're doing is taking your precious resources, your time, your bandwidth, your brain space, your emotions, your mental capacity, all those things. So, and then you're just, trying to beat your head against the wall about saying, well, I don't like this, right? Like, but I don't want this to happen, but I wanted it to go this way, but things. And it's just like, well, let's use my resources. Like, I'm all about, I think when you're spread between so many different people and pulled in so many different directions, I think I'm just so hardwired to be so strategic of like my resources. I'm like, what is the least amount of effort and time and bandwidth and thought and everything I can put into each and everything, because I need enough, for all these buckets.
Right.
Exactly.
Oh, that is. And I've heard that from so many other large families that, after 3 or 4, it's nothing changes really. It's just adding another one to the mix.
3 to 4 is usually easier because like they have like playmates and like there's like it's an even number for a minute there, and like they're just like, okay, there's 4 of them, like they're just everywhere now, like it's fine.
They're everywhere. I love it. Yes.
Well, just to encourage you, Samantha, I will say my daughter's transition from 1 to 2 has been really, really smooth. I can't remember that long ago. I have no idea what it was like for me. And my kids would say all the time, well, that's because you're a dinosaur. I hear all kinds of things.
Oh my gosh.
Just having watched her go through it just recently, because my youngest grandson is not even 3 months yet. And that's been a real smooth transition for her. So
good.
I think if you hear, I think a lot of times we think, and maybe people tell you all the bad stories. So I guess,
right.
Good one, and say, no, it's not, it can be totally 100% fine.
Yeah. I think,
absolutely. Well, that's really encouraging. It makes me excited.
Well, and your personality too. You're pretty laid back for the most part.
Yeah. Like, I feel like I'm, I was a teacher. Like, I've babysat kids. Like, I'm very comfortable around kids. I love kids. So I'm like, I'm not like super nervous about having to. It's just like all of the like time and things, like all the stuff you have to do. For one, I'm a little like, oh, I feel so bad I'm not going to be able to like give him, because my son really give him as much like undivided attention and stuff like that. But then all my friends that went from like 1 to 2 or 3 kids, they're like, it'll be fine. Like, you feel a little guilty now, but once like that baby comes and you see like their relationship, like it's so worth it. So I'm excited.
Well, and that is interesting that you bring up that point too, because that's certainly a question I get a lot, is like, how is there even close to enough of you to go around? Like, there's not, and it's like, but don't forget that you're not the only one who brings value in terms of relationship and everything to your kids. They get so much more, they have so many other people in my family to also gain everything from. And so it definitely is a different dynamic, but it's not, that was a big, I think, realization for us when we got to 4. And I think that's really what made us, because we didn't, in fact, when my husband and I were married for a while, we said we weren't having any kids. Isn't that interesting?
Wow. Oh my goodness.
But we never knew we wanted a large family. I think we both come from 3. And so I think if you would have asked us, we probably just would have assumed that, because that's what was familiar to us. And then, I guess after we had the first one, maybe the second one is when I knew I wanted at least 4. I really wanted 4. And my husband was like, no, I'm not doing that. And so actually the biggest gap between our kids is between 3 and 4. There's actually a 3-year gap there. And then he was finally like, you know what? I'm good with 4. And then literally when we had that 4, that's when the fun really became clear to us. And it was just like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And part of that was watching the siblings with each other and just seeing all the different dynamics and differences in personalities, and just really realizing, what a unique gift that can be, to our kids. So then we just decided, just, you know what? Whatever happens, happens, and there we went.
Just go for it.
I love that.
Yeah, that is pretty awesome.
Going from like, I don't know if I want to have kids to 3 kids to, you know what? Let's have 9.
Let's just
you
keep
know,
going.
I love that.
We would have had
right.
more. Yeah, we would have had more.
Oh my
truly.
gosh. That's amazing.
I love that.
Yeah.
But as like, so I'm a dinosaur now, so you know.
Kids.
Well, absolutely not. You look fabulous.
No. Yes, you do.
Oh, thank you.
I just love that realization. I feel like that, you know, everyone says it takes a village, but like having like those other relationships, like that's just like, that was just such like a light bulb moment for me. Cause like we have such a supportive family and friends, and it's nice to know that like, yeah, I might not be able to be there for like every little thing, but it's like other people can
Somebody
be,
will
and
be.
like those, somebody will be. Like they're always going to have some strong supportive relationships, which is so nice.
Wow. Well, and too, you know, as your kids get older, for us, like, you know, when teenagers need to discuss certain things, like they felt more comfortable going to one of my sisters or something, you know, about something. And like, I'll never forget when my oldest was needing to learn to shave her legs. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is my baby. I can't do it. I made my sister do it. I'm like, we have to teach her to shave her legs. I could not emotionally do that, you know. You know, and it's cool, you know, that you can, you know, when you're blessed to have that, you know, bigger support system too, that you can draw on them and all of that too. So, and I look forward to what that's going to be like, you know, when my kids get older, you know, to see how they as adults are there for each other. Even just this week, my 16-year-old has her prom this weekend, and you know, she came to me and said, you know, and I'm a hairdresser, isn't this funny? She's like, can you do my hair like this? And I'm like, no, that was not my gift. If you want a perm, I can give you a perm all day long. I cannot do those pretty hairdo. No, but I'm like, you know what? Your sister can do that. You know, why don't you call her? She loves to do that. And she's so good at it. She's like, oh, yes, I'll do that. So, you know, she's coming over to do her hair this weekend because her hairdresser mom can't do it.
Oh, my goodness.
I love that.
All right, so let's hit some other topics here within this. So how do you manage your schedule with all of this going on? I mean, is it even possible?
Well, so I would say there's a few things to keep in mind. And I feel like the more variables is how I call them, the more variables you have in your life. So for instance, I have multiple kids. They do you know, I have some of them in this sport. I have others in this sport. They also do music and have music lessons and a day of music. And then we've got church youth group that a couple of them do, and just all these different things. And I would consider those to be all variables. And so the more variables you have, the more I find you plan things in pencil.
Yes. I like that.
Yes.
It's you know, it's like, and you really only put things in stone like a day or two ahead at the most.
Yeah.
Because it just has to be that way. So when it comes to managing like the schedule in that way, like there are many times where there will be, as you can imagine, overlapping things. Like I'm supposed to have this kid here at the same time as this kid is supposed to be there. And I have learned that I am aware of that. You know, there's always got to be this awareness where you're looking ahead, you know, a month or 2 or 3. But when there are problems like that, I have learned that I just need to wait it out and see. It is amazing how some of those details end up getting worked out so much of the time. And it doesn't, and you know, when you're doing that sort of thing too far out, whatever solution you come up with is probably going to change 10 different, you know, the exact details will change 10 times between now and then. So then it just becomes wasted effort and wasted everything. So
stress that you don't need.
Worry.
So I find that's one major way of managing like where everybody has to go and all of that. It literally is like pencil, planning in pencil for a while. My kids just today are starting up with I have 5 swimmers right now. Yeah, 5 swimmers. But of course their groups are all, we represent all the different groups offered.
I bet you.
So they all have different practice times. And so there's some overlap and there's some not. And so our kids have learned there also has to be flexibility on my part And all my kids know there has to be flexibility as well. There's times where, one kid will have to go a half hour early because I'm not going this back and forth. So you're gonna come a half hour early and bring a book or whatever. And somebody else might stay late. And so there's a lot of that flexibility and adaptability. I mean, that's a key also when when we're talking schedules and trying to make everything fit. And then when you're talking about like just how to get through the day, that type of schedule, again, for me, I like to plan things in time blocks for the most part, where again, you kind of just I have my different roles kind of mapped out through the day. So when my day first starts, that's when I get my work done, because obviously I still run a business also. Right. So that's when I get my work done. So that's kind of my work bucket. And then after I work, I go to my self-care bucket. That's usually a time that I'm getting a workout in and that sort of thing. And then after that, I switch to kind of the homemaker/mom bucket, where I'm helping people get through breakfast and we're getting, like a, quick morning tidy done after the, aftermath of all of those things. And then it switches to homeschool mom bucket. Yeah. And then it switches back to kind of like homemaker mom bucket. Then it goes back to work bucket. So it's really I think it's very helpful when managing a schedule to start with what your different roles, and this is how I teach it. You start with what your different roles and responsibilities are first. You lay those out in your day on a Tuesday and a Wednesday if it looks different. And then the tasks you can fill in from there, because those are the variables that can change. Right. Yep. So and it's not to say that you don't have overlap of your time blocks, because there's times where I'm homeschool mom, working mom, homemaker, and taxi service all at the same time, But for the most part, when you have kind of one primary role planned for each different block of time throughout your day, it really helps you be more, I find, helps me feel like I'm more present in everything that I do rather than trying to do 12,000 things at one time. And, my kids will know, if they will approach me during a work time, for instance, they know that I might say, they don't even say, like certain times, they won't even say, hey, can you do this for me? Their question will be, when are you going to be done with this work time or something along those lines? Because they know that, outside of our blood or vomit rule, we try to just kind of stick with the way that things go. And just like too, when I'm homeschooling a couple of the younger ones together, and the older kids know, like, this is homeschool time. Like, again, unless it's blood or vomit, this is what I'm doing right now. Yeah. And so I think that's very helpful too, when you're thinking about a daily schedule, is to think about the roles and responsibilities first and the tasks second. Because when all we do is think about all the things we have to do and all those tasks, that's what makes us feel like we're running the rat race all the time.
Overwhelmed. And definitely.
So I really feel like it sets you up in a good way to keep the real thing on the real thing. Not to say that you don't still feel like you're pulled all over the place sometimes, because you do. But I think when you approach it as, I'm gonna manage the person first and the tasks second. Yeah. I find that is helpful as well. Yeah. And this is stuff that has taken me years to figure out, right? Like I make it sound like, oh, this is just what you do. And it has taken a lot to land here, but this is where I have found certainly it to work the smoothest for the last probably 10 years at least. I've kind of been doing it this way, I would say.
Yeah. And I like that you mentioned bringing, your family is kind of brought into this. They understand what each hat means or each bucket means, so that they know how to, interrupt or don't interrupt. I mean, that's, I think, super important and something that gets missed a lot, because it's not going to function the way you need it to if everyone's not on board.
Yeah. Well, and there's reminders too. In fact, I had to have a sit down this weekend and remind my kids, like, because they, it was cleaning the house day. It was our home reset day, which we do on the weekend. And, this kid wanted me to check this, and that kid wanted me to check that, and this kid and that kid. And I literally reminded and explained again to some of my youngers, if all I did was, run around here to do this for this person and run here, like, I wouldn't be able to get my list done. Like, you can see my list. And so, yes, I understand that you would like me to do this for you right now, and you would like me to do this right now. But let's remember that we want to just be able to get done, and you guys want me to be able to get my work done too, so that we can get to the fun stuff. Right. Yeah. And so it has to be this togetherness, we have to kind of work together. And so again, they had kind of gotten where they were reminding more than, or asking for that type of thing more than we usually do. Yeah. So it's like, but it's, you know, I always try to remind them, like, here's why. Like, imagine, and I literally ask them, imagine if I did this for you and that for them and that for them and that for them, you know, and it can be like bombarding, you know, like literally it could be something every couple of minutes. And it kind of was this weekend, you know, and I'm like, every time that you know, interrupt me too, you know, it makes me kind of have to reset again. And so, you know, why don't we plan on, you know, check in with me? You know, why don't we have check-ins every half hour? Let me know what you need at that point, you know? And so that way, I mean, our kids can do that, right? Even if they aren't old enough to tell time and you're setting a timer, like that's how it was with my little ones, like 10 minutes, you know, you're going to have your alone time over on your blanket here for 10 minutes. You're going to have your alone time on a blanket here for 10 minutes. And I'm going to sit on the couch and do my thing, whatever. And when the timer goes off, then we're done, you know, then we can reassess and see what we're going to do at that point.
Yeah, no, that's really smart. So when you mentioned the cleaning over the weekend, so how do you handle your tasks? I mean, as far as chores and tasks, things like that for the kids, how do you handle that? Do they do most of it, or, you know, is it a team effort?
It is definitely a team effort. Now, there are certain things. So this is interesting. And I've tried we've done all different things with this too. We've done it where, everybody, you know, like this person does this every week, you know, like this is your pack of chores. This is what you do. And I will say too, it's not just on the weekend. We have certain things we do throughout the week too, because we don't want to spend our whole weekend just pulling the house together, you know. So some of these easier tasks we do during the week as well. So I will say, like, in terms of the daily tasks, like my kids are very in charge of, you know, cleaning up. We have one person who clears the dining room and takes care of the dining room. We have one person who does the pantry dishes. We have one person who cleans up the kitchen after every meal. And you'll notice none of those are me, actually. So a lot of times I'll have a kid or two help me bring a meal together, even if it's just something simple. You know, kids, when they're super young, you can say, you know, I usually will ask my kids at lunchtime every day, because of course they're here because we homeschool, you know, and I will ask them, you know, can you first of all pull out any leftovers that we have so those don't get missed? That's we have a really tight food budget. It's something that I have always tried to spend minimally on is food. I'd rather spend my money on other fun things. I mean, not that food can't be fun, but so, you know, we keep a really close eye on leftovers or whatever. So usually I'm just pulling someone into the kitchen. Hey, can you bring out the leftovers for me? Can you grab the salad? Can you do this? So, you know, we always have very planned meals so that everybody knows what's for breakfast and lunch and dinner. And so that, again, it's easier for them to jump in and out. You know, that's a key. If you want your kids to help you with stuff, you got to let them know what there is available to help with. You know,
absolutely.
Then they can help you. So, but in terms of the household chores, so where we found it works best on the home reset is I literally will make a list every single week and just put everybody's name on it. And I have found rotation to be the most helpful. Unless there are certain people who like to do cerern tasks. And as long as everyone agrees, right? Because it can't be like, hey, I want this, and this. And it, you know, in 20 minutes, you know?
Right.
As long as everybody agrees with that. But we have landed where people really do like the variety from week to week, myself included. And another key is, another key is it literally goes down the left. All my kids' names go down the left. Their jobs go underneath it. And then I put mine there too. And I think that is a key because they see that I'm doing it along with them. It's not just, hey, you know, here you guys go.
Right.
And I even will write jobs a lot of times too. Do this with mom or do this with a sibling, you know, and it's like an older kid and a younger kid, or like it's a big job. We have certain areas that you like our schoolroom. We have a large schoolroom, but there's a lot that happens during the week. You know, we do a general tidy of it, but it's pretty much a train wreck by the time we get to the weekend after a school week. You know, so that because that's such a big area and so many different things going on, usually that's a 2-person job. So the more thoroughly that you can just write out those tasks so that everybody can see what everybody's doing, I find that has worked much more effectively than each person having like their own chore pack or their own list, because there's just not that visual of everybody's working together.
Yes.
You know?
I think that's important to see what someone else is doing. Even just with the two I have here, you know, it's, well, she doesn't have to do anything. Why do I have to do this? Well, she does. You just don't see what her list is.
Well, when they think, oh, I want to complain about this thing, they get an opportunity to glance and say, oh, well, my sister's playing the bathroom. I guess
it's not so bad.
I should probably, maybe I should just talk about that.
Well, and I feel like this kind of like leads into another question is like, do you get any like alone time? I know you said like your self-care every day where you do your workout, which I think is great, because I think with having so many like tasks and buckets that you have to fill and roles you have to play, that could easily be pushed to the side because you're saying, I just simply don't have time. So I love that you make that like part of your day. So it's like, do you get like that time like with you or just you and your spouse or whoever? Like, do you get that alone time to just kind of reset?
Well, I'm gonna key in on two words you use, which I was really glad you used them. You used the word have and you used the word get. And I will answer, no, I do not have the time, and no, I don't get the time, but I make the time.
Absolutely.
Because that's what it has to be. Because if we just sit around and if we wait to get to X, Y, or Z, we all know like that will never happen. There's always 1,000 other things that are screaming louder, right? If we think about our self-care, just kind of that as a general bucket, there is always going to be all the tasks and all of those things. And they feel more urgent than our self-care. But I like to say how, you hear the word self in self-care, but it's everybody benefits, right? We know that to be true too. Yes. If you are constantly, now I do believe that women can run on fumes for a while. I think we can go above and beyond. We can neglect ourselves for a while when we have seasons or situations that require that, right? Yeah. But there will reach a point where we cannot do that. And what is that point? Who knows? Yeah. Who knows when it's going to happen? But it's real hard to bring yourself back once you go over the edge and into burnout, or you go over the edge into just, I have nothing left. Yeah. It's harder to bring yourself back. And then a question I like to ask too is, if you're burning the candle at both ends that way, how much value are you really able to bring to the people and the things that you're trying to do it all for? Like, I call it your highest and best self, you're not able to do that. And we want that too, right? Because we know when we're showing up on 1 out of 5 cylinders and we don't like it.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's you, but you do have to make the time, absolutely make the time.
Yeah. I know it's so important because like if you're, like you said, burning the candle at both ends and you're showing up and being snippy with your partner or you're just being really short with your kids and you like just kind of lose it. You're like, that's not helping anybody. That's not showing up as like the best version of you. And like, that's not benefiting like yourself, your spouse, your kids, anything. So I love that like you just have to make the time because it benefits everyone, not just you.
And I feel like that time can be different in different seasons too. And there's a situation, there's plenty of times where we can say, well, ideally, this is what this would look like. Ideally, I would like to have time for a 45-minute workout every day. But there might be seasons where you say, for right now, I like tacking that onto it, right? Because we're like, we can feel disappointed. Like, realistically right now, like it can only be 20 minutes, every day or every other day or whatever, but just to remind yourself, like, this is what it has to be for right now. Later, it will be able to look different, or I will be able to reevaluate this, at a later time when it's not in the middle of, concert season and baseball season and all of those things. But you still have to, the type A personality that I am for a long time, like if I was supposed to do a 30-minute workout, like my husband helped me figure this out because he's not type A. But when I would be at a point where I couldn't get a 30-minute workout, I would not want to do any workout at all. And my husband would be like,
all or nothing kind of thing.
Yeah. And my husband would be like, that's so dumb. Why don't you go out for a 10-minute walk? And I'd be like, I don't know. I just don't want to. 3:30. You know,
That's really, really interesting because I think I fall into that same category.
I do too. Yeah.
I mean, it's
because
that's
you
really
have it set.
interesting.
You just have it set in your mind a certain way you want it to be done, and it's if I don't get at least you said 30 minutes in, what's the point? It's not what I had planned, and then it's well, it's either that or nothing. The 10-minute walk would probably be better than nothing.
I mean,
but in your mind, you're just
minds are that though. Well, I mean, really.
Yeah. Here's the benefit though, is I think, yes, are you giving up the workout if you're not able to, are you giving up the 30 minutes if you can only get 10? Yes. But what you're not giving up is how you are showing up for yourself.
Right.
And so I think that's the bigger thing. When we sacrifice and say, if I can't get the 30, so I'm not doing anything, what the kind of the emotions and feelings and frustrations that we have to grapple with at that point is, we haven't prioritized ourselves at all. We haven't kept any sort of promise to ourselves. And we've turned, it's we've turned our back on ourselves. And so when you're able to get that 10-minute walk, it's not, you're not getting much for exercise wise in 10 minutes time. Right. But what you are getting is, you know what? I still showed up for myself today. And I still made sure that I prioritized myself, even if it was just in this much smaller way. And I think that allows us in our mindset to be a much healthier person. Because I don't know about you, but when I would miss that 30-minute workout then and do nothing, I am in a much more frustrated state than if I get a 10-minute in.
Yep. I agree. I would totally agree. Because it's you showed up for yourself for at least 10 minutes. You prioritized yourself. And then if you don't do that, then you're just thinking okay, well, one, I'm just sulking and irritated on the couch, or I'm I'm doing the dishes when I should be having my 10 minutes of self-care. And you're just then you're just in a bad mood the rest of the day, or it takes me a little bit longer to get out of a little funk like that sometimes.
This is true.
So I'm just I totally agree. It's 10 minutes is better than nothing.
Yeah. Well, and then how do we feel about the people, whatever it is that we determine has made it so that we can't get this workout done? Now we're frustrated towards that person,
resentful,
right? We're resentful, not good, not a pretty emotion. I don't see pretty words and actions coming out of when we
I feel the word resentful in itself is just an ugly word. It's an ugly word. It's not pretty. It doesn't look pretty
about that.
No.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I think that is a great place to stop for this week. But I would love for you, Jennifer, just to tell everyone where they can find you, what's going on in your neck of the woods, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so we have something really exciting actually happening here in the next couple of weeks. We've got the Simplify Your Summer Online Summit happening, which is we've got 30 speakers happening this year, one of which you'll recognize. So we've got, and we cover everything from self-care. We talk about home care. We talk about meals. We talk about time management. We talk about getting stuff done. And this year, we're actually having a category for moms and working moms as well. So just all the common things that women struggle with every day. You can find out and get a free ticket to that at simplifyyoursummer.com.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll leave that in the show notes for everyone so you can grab that if you'd like to attend. I'd encourage it. I've gone last year and I'll be there again this year. So good times. Yep. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jennifer, for being here. It was so fun. And I think you just nailed a lot of points across about what us moms just kind of neglect, and managing that household is just such a challenge, but it really doesn't have to be if we think about it in the right way. So appreciate all your insights.
Well, I was going to say too, I also have the Intentional Mom podcast, and you are going to be a guest on that as well too. We got to nail that down, but you'll hear a familiar face on the Intentional Mom podcast as well.
Definitely going to be awesome. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us this week, and we will be back next with a brand new episode.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us today on She's Got It Together. It's been a real journey sharing and laughing with you all.
We hope you're walking away with a smile on your face and a bit more confidence in your step.
Remember, you're not alone in this crazy ride called life. We're all in this together, one day at a time.
Don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and of course, share this podcast with all the incredible women in your life.
Join us next week for more stories, more laughs, and more real talk.
Until then, keep embracing your unique journey and remember, you've got it together more than you think.